Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for new listeners and new viewers that are following me today. Thank you for the guys and girls that have stuck around from the beginning, and we've grown together. We're getting some really good numbers, lots of good comments, lots of good feedback. The channel is actually moving in the right direction, which it has done from day one, but it's really starting to accelerate. So I really do appreciate that. Hopefully your glass is half full rather than half empty, and that life is treating you well. As of today's had a bit of sunshine, had the last few days a bit of sunshine. Hopefully it's going to continue. We're now in the last 2 weeks of August, and obviously the last few days of summer are about to approach us. So let's just try to embrace that and be thankful for what we have. Today's talk is going to be about states. Our states with the ego, superego and the id. I hear lots of people talking about things like ego, he's got a big ego, she's got a big ego, so on and so forth. It's not necessarily exactly how you might perceive it to be, so I'm going to try to break it down, try to explain to you what the components are, what these drives are, how 2/3 of them, or the majority of it, even the third, that is partially conscious. The majority of it's on the subconscious level, and we're not aware of the drives, we're not necessarily aware of how they affect us. After listening to this video, listen to this talk, hopefully, ideally, everybody will have a better understanding of what the ego, the id and the superego are and how they impact on our day-to-day life. So let's start off. So perhaps Freud, Sigmund Freud, one of his greatest achievements, I would say, or the most enduring and most important idea, was that human psyche, personality, has more than one aspect. Now, Freud's personality theory, which he developed in 1923, quite some time ago. I'm not sure if anybody here is old enough to remember what was going on in 1923. I probably doubt it. I think you'd have to actually be 100 years old, yeah. 23 is 2023, so exactly 100 years ago. And it's survived this test of time, a lot of rigor, and to be quite honest, governments used it to control people. Leaders used a lot of his theories to control the masses. So it's well worth having a little bit of look at Freud, and you'll see how some of the things that he discovered have been used in society to basically help, well, not help, it does control us. So here we go. Anyway, Freud's personality traits. So his psyche was structured on 3 parts: the id, the ego and the superego, all developing at different stages of our lives. The id represents instincts, the ego reality, the superego morality, which we probably get from our parents, others around us in society. That's the superego. Now this takes place on the subconscious level. We're not consciously aware of the drives taking place. So you might be acting out on stuff, which we all are, at some stages of our life, on stuff we don't know. We don't know why we feel the way we feel. Yet we know it's a feeling, but we can't identify it. This could be, there's other drives that take place in our life, but this could be either your id, what you used to do something spontaneously, because that's what it works on. It could be the ego that's telling you that this is not correct. And then we've got the superego that is very controlling, a bit like a serious mother or father figure that's pretty strict on you and tells you your morals. Now to add to this, they're all pulling us in different directions. The superego can be seen as a strict parent trying to keep the 2 other theories or drives at bay, under control. Now, being the id, which works with instinct and sexual pleasure and aggressive drives and random hidden memories. Now the superego operates on the moral conscience, and the ego is the realistic part that mediates between the desires of the id and the superego. Now that is the overview. Now let's get into a little bit more depth so we can look at these things, these drives, and possibly have a look at how we might fit in to what goes on with these drives and how it affects us in our day-to-day life, which I'll get to at the end of this. If you stay to the end of the video, which I'd like you to do, I'll show you how this works in therapy, in psychodynamic therapy, because that is what happens. We look back into clients or people's past and look at where problems might have arisen, where challenges might have arisen, how they happened, and how to address them. So the id is part of the unconscious that controls all of our urges, our impulses, including what is called the libido. We all hear about the libido, it's our sexual drive. A kind of generalized sexual energy that is used from everything from survival instincts to absolutely the appreciation of art. So it's a very diverse thing. And actually it's the first drive, the first state, mental state that we are come into when we're born. We're very, everything is about us when we're born. We don't have much consciousness. We have no consciousness of anything else other than ourselves and our surrounding environment. And we actually believe it's all about us when we're born. We're very, very, absolutely narcissistic as babies. So it's just the way it is. There's nothing wrong with it. It is what it is, as I always say to people. Now, the id is the impulsive part of the psyche. Basic urges need to be taken care of, its desires. The personality of the newborn child is all id. Only later does it develop the ego and then, of course, the superego. The id is very, very stubborn, and Freud called it the pleasure principle. So if you think about the id, you think about pleasure principles, you think about irrational behavior, such as seeing a lady seeing a guy that she likes, just going up to him and kissing him on the lips, a guy seeing a woman he likes, just going up and kissing her on the lips, going into car showrooms, seeing lovely cars, just asking the assistant for the keys, putting the keys in the ignition, and just driving the car through the glass window even, and driving off and thinking that's cool. That's the id for you. So when you do impulsive things that you really can't put your finger on, it's your id that's driving you. So as we've said, so the ego and the superego develop later. And as I've said, Freud calls this the pleasure principle. If it feels good, just do it. There's nothing else. The id is not affected by reality, logic, or the everyday world. It's in a world of its own, which is exactly how we are when we're born. We're in a world of our own. The outside world is there, but we actually believe it's all about us. We're not responsible for anything in it. We're just there to enjoy ourselves, to have pleasure, and to use it as we want. It's like our own amusement park. That includes your brothers and your sisters that were born before you, your mum and dad, and everybody you see outside of your pram. Now, the ego is the only part of this three-sided drive that we have that's partially conscious. And it's partially conscious because it's aware of what we do and how we think about ourselves, and how we want to portray ourselves to the world. That's what the ego does. And so how we portray ourselves towards others, the ego's got a big say in it. The ego develops from the id during infancy. The ego its goal is to satisfy its demands in a safe and sociable, acceptable way. So the ego's objective is to make the id get its fun, kiss the lady, kiss the guy, get the porridge, but in an acceptable way. Obviously, you need to talk to the lady before you kiss her. Obviously, the lady needs to talk to a guy before she even kisses him, or even contemplates that. And of course, you need to raise your money to buy cars or do it on finance before you drive it. And of course, you don't drive it through the shop window. So this is the ego. This is the job of what the ego does. So it controls the id, and the ego follows reality principle and operates it both in the conscious and the subconscious mind. So as I said earlier on, all of these states operate in the subconscious, subconscious mind. But the ego does flash into consciousness. And when I was learning this at college, they used the iceberg as a way to give people a visual impression of what these drives are, what the superego, the id, and the ego are. And what it is, it shows you an iceberg with just the tip of the iceberg, which is above the surface of the water. And of course, below the surface, as we know of icebergs, and especially people that have watched the Titanic and films and movies and true stories like that you might only see the tip of the iceberg, and that's all you're seeing. But if you actually get anywhere near to that tip, you're probably going to be sinking already, because there's a big amount of ice underneath the water which has destroyed your boat already. And that is what we're talking about here. We're talking about our subconscious and the conscious part, which is the tip, the little bit that you can see. Now, like the id, the ego seeks pleasure, and its idea is to reduce tension. It's a tension reduction operative, and it avoids pain. But unlike the ego is concerned with doing things in a realistic way and getting strategies to keep yourself in the pleasure zone, but not at the cost of anything, which the id doesn't. The id doesn't care. What is a superego? A superego incorporates the values of morals of society, which are learned from our parents and others. It develops at the age of between 3 to 5 years of age. The superego operates on the morality principle and motivates us to behave in a socially acceptable and responsible manner. The superego is seen, it rewards us for doing things well, and it punishes us for doing things wrong. And it punishes us by making us feel guilty, or it punishes the ego for making us feel guilty, but by via guilt. It's partly unconscious, as I've said, and the superego's function is to control the id's impulses, such as sex, aggression, and also the pleasures the ego's to turn down and have realistic goals, not unrealistic goals. That's what we get from the id. The superego has two systems: one, the conscience, and the ideal self. The conscience is our inner voice that tells us when we've done something wrong. It can make the ego feel guilty if it gives into the demands of the id. The superego may make a person feel bad through guilt, as I've said already. Now, the therapeutic impact of this, when they're in conflict with each other, is mental illness. You've actually, because you're being pulled in so many different directions at times, and it's difficult, you can form mental illness. And this is because of the conflicts of the unconscious between the id, the ego, and the superego. Now, as I said earlier on, I'll tell you how it works in psychodynamic counselling. So psychodynamic approach in counselling is to resolve the problem would be for the therapist to delve back into your past and see where there was a serious conflict between the id and the ego, or the superego trying to control the both of them. And the superego is there to give you the morality, the ego to try to control you, and obviously the id just wants to play all day long, all night long. People that are probably on binges, on drugs, they're really in their id state. People that have got lost into gambling, people that got lost into sexual activities and just don't stop. People that are eating without consequences. Without consequences, that's the id. Yeah? Id really is doing all of that. So what we do is, in the psychodynamic therapy, we go back into people's past, look for where things could have gone wrong, and try to work on it and see how we can best bring the client forward from that position back up to date, and move those barriers away from them. So, thank you for listening to this talk. Hopefully now you've got a better understanding of what the id, the superego, and the ego do, how they work, how you can be conflicted in your emotional states at times, and of course you can always see somebody to help you, who's especially a psychodynamic therapist, to help you to come to terms with some of the maladies, some of the challenges that you might have in modern day life, your present life, from these drives that are happening constantly on you, but mostly on a subconscious level. So you can't actually pick them out. Now, some of the things something I can give you as an example that you might see somebody doing, somebody that goes with somebody who beats them consistently, they say they're not going to go back with that person again, they don't, but they pick a similar partner. That's probably the id working there, trying to get the pleasure out of that relationship that they do get, but with the wrong kind of person. So they keep repeating bad roles of behavior that are negative to the outcome of the person. Anyway, please leave comments, share with friends and family. If you've got any ideas on this ego states, then please let me know. Until 2 weeks time, do take care of yourself, try your best to stay positive, and make the most of every day as it comes. Bye for now.